It's football season, and you can now get almost anything you need for game day delivered with Uber Eats. What do we mean by almost? Well, you can't get a running back delivered, but you can get baby back ribs delivered. A strong defense? No. A strong deodorant? Yes. A six-pack of abs? Nope. Six-pack of beer? Yes. Get almost anything for game day delivered with Uber Eats, official on-demand food delivery partner of the NFL. Order now. Alcohol 21 plus and in select cities. Product availability varies by region. See app for details.
This Steve Jones Show podcast is now loading. The Steve Jones Show podcast is presented by Sunbury Motor Company, Purdy Insurance, Brewers Outlet, and NIL Game Changers. Bringing you an in-depth look at Penn State sports and more. This is the Steve Jones Show on News Radio 1070 WKOK. The Steve Jones Show is presented by Purdy Insurance, Brewers Outlet, and Sunbury Motor Company. Now from the Sunbury Motor Studio, here's Steve Jones.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Tuesday edition of the Steve Jones Show, sponsored by Sunbury Motor Company, Sunbury Motors, Brewers Outlet, and Purdy Insurance. Regular Tuesday today, Matt Catrillo is going to join us at 1:15. Neil Coulong to talk to Steelers at 2:05. I did see it sounds like Russell Wilson's going to practice with the second team this week, and Coach Tomlin did say in the press conference this morning that might leave the door open for him to play this week. Well, that's probably something we'll have to keep an eye on this week. In sad news, it's kind of odd that we brought him up yesterday when we were talking about old school pitchers. Luis Tiant passed away. I guess more formally known as a Red Sox great. Also pitched for the Indians and several other teams in Major League Baseball. Robert Saleh was fired by the Jets today. I think we all know who the actual head coach of the Jets is.
Saleh's out. Phillies Mets tonight. Luis Tiant died.
Yes.
Okay. You love Zach Wheeler, right? As Phillies fans?
Yes.
Okay. A total postseason package that he is. The difference in eras comes into play here. I know the era is what it is today. I understand that. But Luis Tiant in Game 4 of the 1975 World Series threw 163 pitches. Complete game because his team needed it. The Red Sox won 5-4. Zach Wheeler threw 103 and got yanked after 7 innings with a one-hitter. Okay? It is this is sounds like the old man got off my lawn thing, but I'm sorry. I'm giving you facts. Okay? There's a difference between an opinion and an opinion backed by facts. Why is it Jack Morris could go 10 innings? Why is it Luis Tiant could throw 163 pitches when the team needed it and he gets yanked? Oh, today's game, guess what? Is today's game better? Is it really that much better? I mean, I'm watching TJ Watt on Sunday night in the fourth quarter on the sideline, throwing water into himself and breathing as if he just won a marathon. No offense, when did Lawrence Taylor come out? When did Reggie White come out? When? No, but I'm saying when?
Well, no, I was going to say Lawrence Taylor might have had a little help with that, but your point with Reggie Wright is correct.
Right? But when did they come out? I mean, come on. I mean, is it that different today? Aaron Donald, praise beyond words for great. You know how many times I've said in this show, I don't get why in the fourth quarter he's on the sideline? When did Joe Green come out? When did Joe Green come out? He didn't. When did Alan Page come out? He didn't. Oh, it's ridiculous. I mean, I see this stuff sometimes. I'm going, the fourth quarter, your team needs you, man. Get out there. Right? And he's over there as if he just run 26 miles. They cut me a break. What, do you think the guys in the bygone era didn't play hard? What, do you think they paced themselves? I mean, come on. I see stuff like this today, and I'm like, I think Wheeler's a great pitcher. I don't think he's a good pitcher. I think he's a legitimately great pitcher. But 103 pitches and we're done? In a playoff game where I need to win? I'm sorry. I saw Bob Gibson throw 3 complete games in a World Series. I saw Mickey Lolich games 2-5-7 complete games. Sandy Koufax games 2-5-7 complete games. I mean, come on. I see stuff today where I sit back and go, okay. Now, if the rosters were, at, let's pick a number, 55 instead of 46. I could see more of a rotation, but the rosters are the same. There's no difference in the rosters. I get things, I sit there and go, what do you mean he's coming out? They can't touch him. You get some analytics nerd in the back going, it's the third time through the order. Right? Well, it's the third time I've come into your office, and so far I have not, you've told me nothing that makes sense. Am I wrong? Maybe you think I'm wrong.
I think to go back to that, though, I mean, they're not developed that way anymore, though. I mean, it's going to take take a revamping. But
we're told they're in the best conditioned athletes ever. Yeah. We're told that. Their conditioning is off the charts. It's da-da-da-da. Now look at the fourth quarter, and they're sucking wind, and they're on the sideline when their team needs them to be out there. I thought you were rotating them the first 3 quarters so they'd be fresh in the fourth quarter. What am I missing here? It's different in college. In college, you have, like, Penn State's going to go to the West Coast. They got 74 people on the roster. Okay? So you can do more of a rotation. The NFL, you don't have to rotate guys? What, you're telling me the guy that's in for T.J. Watt's better right now than Watt would be at 80%? Come on. When did Reggie White take a playoff? And it's not that long ago Reggie White played. I mean, let's not pretend we're not talking about 1950s Reggie White here. Come on.
I hate to admit this, but it is 30 years ago.
Yeah, but 30 years that's not a long time. Okay? I'm not talking about like we're comparing Babe Ruth to Shohei Ohtani.
Yeah, true.
All right? We're talking about like you have to be kidding me. All right? I don't know. The Yankee thing last night, I'm watching that. Rodon, take him out. Okay? Aaron Boone. Okay? Typical of today's manager, panicking. Now, he had no offense last night. He had no offense at all, which has been a Yankee problem. Because if Judge and Soto aren't hitting, then the Yankees have some offensive troubles. The Phillies will go tonight with Aaron Nola. Nola's a horse. I mean, there's no getting around it. He is a horse. And he's the kind of guy in the postseason. I don't care what kind of regular season you end up having. Some guys in the postseason just are better, and that to me, that's Nola. And tonight the Mets will go with Sean Manaea, and I think Manaea is a really good pitcher. I think the pitching matchup's great tonight. The question is, can the Phillies find enough offense? Can they find enough offense? Same story with the Mets. But Nola and Manaea tonight, Citi Field. If the Phillies end up losing the series, they're going to rue the day they took out Wheeler with 103 pitches. Because I think they had game one in the back pocket. They do. And then the Padres go. All these series are a game apiece, by the way. Dodgers tonight. Walker Buehler goes for Dave Roberts, and Mike Schilt will go with Michael King. And King in the second half of the season was unbelievably good. So
whatever his breaking ball is nasty.
Yeah. Well, they got King in the Juan Soto trade.
Yes.
You know that. Like, it's, they ripped him off. They were King's out there pitching tonight. It's like, And Aaron Judge did get a hit last night. Do you want to know what Aaron Judge since 2020, what his postseason numbers are? He is now 11 for 77. 143 with a 35% strikeout rate. So,
do you want me to let the other participant on?
You might as well, because, he's the one. Let's face it. If he brought his kids to the game, they'd all be getting a nice little breeze off those swings.
Oh, no. If they're pitching good, they're in my opinion. So I'm with you with everything you just said.
First of all, Jazz Chisholm. The Royals got lucky last night. Jazz, you scored 2 runs. Right? And Salvi Perez, who, by the way, has a World Series ring because he's terrific in postseason as one of the participants, hit a home run last night.
Yes, he did. It was not a good performance at all last night for the offense whatsoever. And at least with Soto, he at least hit in game 1. But you mentioned Aaron Judge. Yeah, it's time for him to wake up. And I did say this to you when we were talking about him being in the MVP conversation and probably going to be the favorite, that if he again underproduces in the postseason, I was going to go after him. And so that's exactly what I'm going to do. He's got to start producing. He just looks, he's in a different mindset in the regular season. Like, I don't want to say that he can't handle the pressure, because I think he can, but I think he's just pressing a little bit. You're Aaron Judge. You've been doing this all year. You face these same guys all year. Just go out and do it. That's all. I don't need a home run from you that's 450-something feet. I'll tell you the same thing to Giancarlo Stanton, who, for the millionth time, all he does is hit weak pop-ups behind home plate, or hits a weak ground ball that somehow was misplayed and ended up being the Yankees' only run last night. I just need you to get hits. Just make contact. Make it simple. I think that's part of the problem, too, Steve, is guys don't make it simple in the postseason. You have to make it simple. Make the simple play. Think about just getting contact. Yep. And you have to do that, especially with runners in scoring position. Here's another stat for you. The Yankees are 3 for 19 with runners in scoring position. They've left 17 people on base. Whether the pitching's good or not, you're not going to win playoff games that way.
Well,
we're seeing that with the Phillies, too.
But that's been their offense all year. It's either been Soto or Judge and nobody else.
Exactly. But what have I also said all year? This team's not good enough. I am still shocked beyond belief that this team won the AL East. This team is not a good baseball team. I've been saying that all year, and here we are right now. I'm not surprised that they got the split here with the Royals. I still think they're they're the slightly better team if the offense can produce. But if you're going down to pitching, then I give the edge to the Royals. And that made me, and the way they performed against the O's, it made me a little nervous going into this series. So I think this is heading for a 5-game series. And if it gets that way, it's not going to be in the Yankees' favor because Garrett Cole's going to pitch Game 4. So that means Carlos Rodon, who obviously was not great as he usually is Mr. Inconsistent, for $163 million waste of time, he's going to get the ball in Game 5. And I have no confidence at all whatsoever if that comes down to it. I don't.
Well, I think the bottom line is we're in an era right now where there are very few great teams in any sport. The Florida Panthers are extremely good, but they're not really a great team. All right? Kansas City Chiefs, they won back-to-back Super Bowls. I think they're an extremely good team. I don't think they're a great team. All right? Now, the Boston Celtics this past season were a great team all the way through. They kind of just kind of wiped out everybody in the regular season and wiped out everybody in the postseason. That's a great team. Now, in this particular year, they were. Right? This year, they were. Right? Years before, they weren't. Right? They were really good, but not great. And in baseball, it's the same way. We have 8 teams left. They're all really, really good. Not one of the 8 is a great team. The Phillies aren't a great team. The Yankees aren't a great team. The Dodgers aren't a great team. The Padres, Royals, Tigers, Guardians. Right? I mean, none of them are great teams. The Mets, not a great team. But they're all really good teams. But they're not teams that for the ages.
And I think this was partially one of the reasons why I didn't like when baseball expanded the playoffs a couple of years ago, because as we now see, really the last 2 seasons, you look at obviously last year's World Series, 2 wild card teams, it is simply just if you're hot at the right time and you're in the thick of the playoff race and you get in, then you can win.
Wow.
And now as a fan of that team, it gives me hope. But if I'm a fan of a team like the Phillies, for an example, or like the Dodgers, I don't like that as a fan because I want my team to win because they've been winning all year. I don't necessarily like that type of mindset where you just get hot at the right time. You don't have to play well the whole way through. I feel like you should play well and play to win the whole way through.
I disagree. I disagree with you on that about teams getting hot, whatever. Because the Yankees slumped down the stretch in some ways, especially offensively, and Judge slumped down the stretch. Because I think anytime he plays a lot of games in the season, he gets tired. And I think that I have no problem with expanding the playoffs, but here's the part of the playoffs that people don't realize. When a team wins the opening round, they feel good about themselves.
Yeah, we've seen that's another good example of the last 2 seasons. And this because they have momentum when you have these other teams that have been off a week. Sure, they'll try and do simulated games and whatnot, but it's not the same.
Yeah, it's not the same.
When you're wrapping up to a playoff game, it's just not.
No, it's not. And see, I liken this to after all the years I've done conference basketball tournaments, the most dangerous days for the favorites are the second and third day. Why? Okay. On the second day, teams that had the bye are not facing somebody who won last night and they feel great about themselves. On the third day, you've had teams with the double bye facing teams that won last night and feel great about themselves. Okay, things then even out in the semifinals, right? And then in the finals. It's the same thing with this in baseball, right? The Royals feel great about themselves. The Tigers feel great about themselves. The Padres feel great about themselves, right? The Mets feel great about themselves. So they come in with a little different mindset and more confidence compared to the team they're facing that's been kind of waiting.
Yeah, totally agree. And I think the Mets are are a really good example of this, because I think that's why a lot of Philly fans came into this series fearing the Mets. And if I were a Phillies fan, I would have felt the exact same way. I think tonight's game, last night was huge for the Phillies. Had the Mets won last night or 2 nights ago, then they were going to win this 3-0. That's how big momentum has been in the baseball postseason. And momentum, and because of having said that, the Phillies winning last night, they now have all the momentum. If they can't take care of business tonight, the Mets are going to get that special feeling, magic feeling right back, and I think that wins them this series. So bottom line, to me, for this Mets-Phillies series, the winner of this game tonight is going to win this series, because momentum is just so huge between both these teams right now.
Momentum is as close as your starting pitcher. Okay? That's where your momentum is. Yeah, your starting pitcher has to be the one to go out and set the tone to back up whatever momentum you think you have. It's only as good as your starting pitch. I've got momentum, and then I'm throwing out some guy that has no shot at all. We got a problem. We have to go with our fifth guy. Got a problem. At least the Eagles didn't lose.
That's true, but everybody else in the NFC East won this week.
Look at Josh Harris. His Washington Commanders are in first place.
It is nauseating beyond belief.
Why? He's successful.
Yeah, I would. If maybe his first job, the basketball team in Philadelphia, were successful, then maybe I'd be okay with it. But they're not. So no, I'm not okay with it.
You're just a hater.
I just want guys that are invested. This guy's not invested. This guy's a clown.
But Lisa looks at him and says, wow, he's rich.
Lisa would be like, who's that?
Oh, he's rich. Well, who is that? How are the kids? They doing all right?
Everybody's good.
Yeah?
Can't complain.
As John Paul told the other two to leave him alone, is he fighting back?
Let's just say he can be an instigator sometimes a little bit now that he's starting to be mobile.
He's starting to be mobile? I thought he was a year old.
It's football season, and you can now get almost anything you need for game day delivered with Uber Eats. What do we mean by almost? Well, you can't get a running back delivered, but you can get baby back ribs delivered. A strong defense? No. A strong deodorant? Yes. A six-pack of abs? Nope. Six-pack of beer? Yes. Get almost anything for game day delivered with Uber Eats, official on-demand food delivery partner of the NFL. Order now. Alcohol 21 plus and in select cities. Product availability varies by region. See app for details.
When car repairs get difficult.
Well, I just don't know.
Me neither.
We get good. Sunbury Motors. More than quality new and used cars, Sunbury Motors specializes in complicated auto repair diagnosis. They can handle intricate repairs and even complete auto body with service open Monday through Friday, 7 till 4. And Sunbury Motors has made simple repairs easy. Maintaining your vehicle is necessary. Finding the time to do it is difficult. Welcome to Sunbury Motors Quick Lane. Just walk in or call ahead. Relax in their remodeled waiting room with Wi-Fi, beverages, and snacks. While Sunbury Motors factory trained techs take care of your oil change, tire alignments, brakes, and inspections. Quick Lane, 6:30 to 6 Monday through Friday, Saturday 6:30 till 2. Sunbury Motors, Ford and Hyundai, North 4th Street, Sunbury. And Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15 in Hummel's Wharf. We take the out of auto repair.
Bringing you an in-depth look at Penn State sports and more. This is the Steve Jones Show on News Radio 1070 WKOK. The Steve Jones Show is presented by Sunbury Motor Company, Purdy Insurance, and Brewers Outlet. Now from the Sunbury Motors studio, here's Steve Jones.
Half hour brought to you by Sunbury Motors, 4th Street in Sunbury. Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15, Hummels Wharf, online, sunburymotors.com. Ford Kia Hyundai, best in new inventory, great pre-owned inventory with the Sunbury Motors guarantee. terrific service department that backs it up every step of the way, whether it happens to be inspections, routine, difficult. One-stop shopping, the great people at Sunbury Motors, 4th Street in Sunbury. Sunbury Motors Kia. Routes 11 and 15, Hummels Wharf, and online at sunburymotors.com. Well, an amazing story. College athletes are getting more abuse now from people who are mad at them who bet. I'm shocked. I don't think we ever anticipated this on this show. I mean, come on. We said it how many years ago? When the New Jersey law passed muster with the Supreme Court, I said, this is going to bring with it gambling in states all across the country. I said, it's going to take time for all 50. I said, but I think I said within 5 years, 70% of the states would have it. I said, and two, it's going to bring with it more anger among sports fans when they lose money on games, and the anger is going to be directed at coaches and at players. Some of this stuff is not difficult to predict. It's just not.
I'm actually more impressed that somebody got paid to study that.
No, and I'm good. I think that's good. I'm seriously, because, for example, I've been citing to my class, because we're doing the talk show segment right now, how important research is. And I said, journalistically, ESPN is one of the poorest outfits out there. They don't tell you what's going on. No, they may tell you who might be traded, but they give you an unrealistic view of what reality is with certain sports. Right? They don't delve into the problems they have, especially if it's a sport they are carrying. If it's a sport they don't carry, they're very good about picking it apart. Now let's get to, for fans here, the Phillies are the big story of the day. Got it. But that is in the moment. Now let's get back to, and we'll talk about Luis Tiant in the final half hour. One of the truly great big game pitchers in the history of baseball, El Tiante. And again, it happens at a time which doesn't make Robbie Thompson look good. It just doesn't. I'm sorry. To be honest with you, on Saturday when they pulled him out, when they pulled Wheeler out, the first thing I thought of? It's ironic, of all the things, Luis Tiant. The first person I thought of when he's not coming out for the eighth inning, I'm like going, you got to be kidding me. Really? He's not coming out for the eighth inning? Luis Tiant, I even said it. I was with a group of people because they had the game on at a tailgate. And I said, tell you right now, Luis Tiant wouldn't have come out. That's exactly what I said. Of all the things, and here he passed away today at 83. So he wouldn't have come out. Oh, it's different today. Yeah, it's not as good. I want people who want the ball and get mad. Like Roy Halladay, they came out. If he came out of the dugout, he'd stare him down. Right? Halladay would stare him down. You think Tom Seaver would come out? My goodness, people forget the one World Series game that Tom Seaver won in his life was Game 4. He pitched 10 innings. So I figure I'd mention one of your guys. I thought it'd make you feel better.
Hey, I'm happy they took him out. I completely agree with the decision.
Well, of course. Of course you do. But you sit there like going, no offense, 103 pitches is not a...
You were talking about that, and the one thing I'm thinking about is Joe Torre coming out for Mike Mussina.
Oh, Mike Bucina never wanted to come out. Never. But different era. People need a lot more breaks. All right. Think I'm kidding? Every time I turn around, somebody's on break.
A perfect segue there would have been to take a break.
Yeah, but I'm not going to take a break yet. Luis Tiant. Postseason, you know what his postseason record was? 3-0 with a 2.86 ERA. How about that?
I'm not sure I would have guessed that it was only 3 games.
Well, you got to remember they didn't,
Yeah.
The Red Sox only he made the playoffs once with the Twins, and he only made it once with the Red Sox. And
oh yeah, only 2 teams made it back then. 4 teams in total, but yeah,
right. Only 4 teams made it back then. But you're. I mean, 3 starts in the 75 World Series, he averaged 8 innings a start with 2 complete games. Okay? Playoff against Oakland, complete game. 3 hits, 1 run. Yeah.
He had retired by the time I was a baseball fan, and yet I still could do a Luis Tiant windup. I think everybody did Luis.
Tiante, the windup was beautiful. It's beautiful. He'd see everybody. Hey, how's everybody doing? Check out how many seats, how many people were in center field. Yeah.
Could you imagine walking out and taking your eyes off the catcher's glove now?
I know. Well, Fernando Valenzuela was like that.
The look to the stars.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, he was a 4-time 20-game winner. Once with Cleveland, 3 with Boston. Tremendous. All right, now let's get to what actually is for the future now, the big story of the day. And that is the House settlement is moving forward. And something else also happened today that dovetails with it. So here are the big dates off the field in college sports this year. The big dates will be February, some date in there, where ESPN has the option to opt in to the rest of the ACC contract. So that's one. The next big date is April 7th. That is the day that the House settlement should be firmed and done. They changed some language on what a booster is, and that satisfied Judge Claudia Wolkin. So she rubber-stamped it with April 7th being the day it's finalized. Okay. That means starting next year, some schools, Penn State will be one of them, will be paying upwards of right around $22, $23 million, with money being distributed to athletes. All right, so that would start next fall. Now let's get to the secondary story, which is also a big story. Interesting that right after she approved that, Ohio State announced they are dropping men's gymnastics. Okay? Now, men's gymnastics only has 15 schools participating in it. Okay? They're no longer going to offer any scholarship. They're still going to have men's gymnastics, but just no scholarships for it. None. Which means essentially they will be a club sport. This is where the House decision, which is court mandated, this is not a decision that schools have made. It's not a decision that the NCAA has made. This is court mandated. It's a settlement. My question is going to be, what other sports are in danger of becoming club sports? People love their sports. I mean, I've been out at field hockey. It was a nice crowd. Been to men's and women's soccer, great crowds. Penn State was against Oregon the other night, women's volleyball. The place, they were wedging people into the place. We all know wrestling always sells out, and most of the time they sell out the Jordan Center. This will be interesting. They got 2 this year. Every time they've had 2, they haven't sold out the second one. But what's going to happen? So, let's get to the basics. Number one, what is untouchable? Women's basketball is untouchable. Wrestling is untouchable. Women's volleyball, everybody has it, all 364, untouchable. Okay? So there's certain untouchables. Men's and women's soccer, untouchables. What about everything else? Now, men's ice hockey is untouchable, which means women's ice hockey is untouchable too. And I think baseball and softball, in most places, is safe. Remember, I say most places because remember, years ago, Wisconsin dropped baseball and they still never brought it back. That's why I say most. But you have to be realistic. You got to be realistic about this. You have to sit there and actually, and this is where most people don't, I say this with all due respect, most people don't that really follow smaller sports, they're passionate about it. And I love their passion. But they always look at their sport with their heart. They don't look at it with their mind. It's always with the heart. I had a young person in my class the other day saying, and women's wrestling, and da-da-da. I looked at him and go, nobody's adding women's wrestling. I said, they got to pay $22 million to athletes starting next year. Where's the money for that? Nobody's adding sports. Who's adding? You're an athletic director. You did your 3 to 5 year plan 2 years ago. This $22 million wasn't in it. You're not talking about $2 million. You're talking $22 million. Where you got the money for that? Ohio State's going to no more scholarships for men's gymnastics. They're going to make essentially a club team. Iowa dropped 4 sports 2 years ago. Clemson dropped swimming. This is just the beginning. It's just the beginning. Just because wrestling is untouchable at Penn State, which it needs to be untouchable, and everybody knows it, everybody knows it's untouchable here. It's untouchable at Iowa. It's untouchable at almost every Big Ten school. But is it untouchable at Tennessee Chattanooga? Is it untouchable other places? Remember, most of the big schools in the country don't have it. USC? No. UCLA? No. Oregon? No. Washington? No. Notre Dame? No. Texas? No. Alabama? No. Georgia? No. Okay? Ole Miss? No. Mississippi State? No. Texas A&M? No. Texas? No. I mean, how many no's do you need? I'm naming all the big schools in the country. Do not have it. Okay? Don't have it. So they have to think about it. Well, what about the smaller schools? Because guess what? The smaller schools, they're not going to pay $22 million. They're going to pay considerably less than that. But I was listening to the Appalachian State Athletic Director being interviewed last week, and he was, a lot of it was about what happened with Hurricane Helene and how they're not going to play another home game probably the rest of the season, and all the destruction around the campus in Boone and so forth. That was what most of it. But they did bring up with him, hey, once the House settlement is in, what does that do? He says, we have a lot of decisions to make. Now, they can't pay $22 million. So, and I can't really give you round figures. I mean, maybe let's just say they can pay $4 to $6 million. Right? Well, what do you have to cut out to get your $4 to $6 million? You don't have the TV contract to handle this. I brought up Pitt. Pitt's a Power 4 school. Where are they going to get the money? Where? Attendance? ACC TV contract? College football playoff distribution? NCAA basketball distribution, which is going to be less? It's one thing, the House settlement. See, Bucknell gets hurt by the House settlement. They count on their Patriot League distribution. Well, it's going to be slightly less because of the settlement for the next 10 years.
Pitt football is going to be getting less than they thought, too, because isn't Clemson and Florida State going to, well, in theory, Clemson and Florida State eventually going to get a bigger piece of that pie, too?
That goes to the February settlement with ESPN.
Okay.
ESPN opting in. ESPN opts in. The ACC then has to determine how they're going to dole out the money, and Florida State and Clemson are going to get more money. They're going to do this like Texas did with the Big 12. Texas got more money than anybody else in the Big 12. That's why Tom Osborne went into the meeting when they were thinking about going to the Big Ten, and he said, I got one question. He says, are you going to share any of your Longhorn Network money with any of us, considering we're all on the Longhorn Network? Texas said no. He said, thanks, we're done. Left, and he went to the Big Ten. Which the answer he got from Texas was the answer he expected, by the way. But that's what happened. I mean, what's going to happen to some sports at some schools? Like, Texas only has 17 sports. Tennessee has 20. I think Clemson's right around 19, 20. Alabama's right around 19 or 20. Ohio State at 36. They're going to have 35 with scholarships after the men's gymnastics dropping. Penn State has 31. I think Northwestern has maybe 19. But we don't know what their numbers are because they're a private institution, so I don't know what the reporting happens to be. USC, UCLA don't have as many sports. What, they got 21, 22? That's a lot of sports. And as I've said, and I know people get very defensive about wrestling, and it's about creative, how they put the numbers on the board. Look, it's expenses versus revenue. It's actually pretty simple. Okay? That's what it is. Expenses, revenue. Revenue, expenses. Okay? I mean, do you want to know what Penn State's NCAA distribution was last year for wrestling? For being in the wrestling championship? You want to know what their distribution was? Take a guess.
42.
Too low. Actually did well. $48,000. $48,000. Okay, that barely buys a mat. Because that's just not the way it works. Like women's basketball, remember they made a big deal out of the new contract? It's what, $130 million or whatever it is? And $65 million is going to women's basketball? It sounds great, doesn't it? Doesn't that sound great? $65 million is going to go to women's basketball. Sounds awesome. Per year. Men's basketball tournament is $1 billion per year. Whoops. That's why you hear Don Staley all the time campaigning very hard for them to do unit distribution like the men's tournament does. Because the SEC is going to get 9, 10 schools into the NCAAs, maybe 11. They're all going to earn units by being there. And, of course, she can earn as many as 5 or 6 units by getting to the national championship game, which will then, in turn, give them more money. That's why she wants units. Which I don't blame her. I would be campaigning for units, too. I'm not saying she's wrong. I'm saying, but that's why she's doing it. And she's right to do that. Success breeds success. Why should South Carolina get the exact same number as Northwestern? But that's why she does it, because that's the only way for them to get more money, because guess what? Despite their success, don't fall down, South Carolina women's basketball loses money. Tennessee women's basketball, you know what their number is? $4.1 million in the hole, Tennessee. It's the way it is. It's just that okay, because we like to talk to all of you in the real world here. Okay? This isn't about heart. This is about mind. Okay? These decisions are going to be made with minds, not with hearts. Now, certain sports, as I mentioned, they are untouchable. But everybody else, boy, you got to start wondering how schools are going to make ends meet. Because now they've got a 22, and it's a 4% escalator. $22 million every year? Where are you going to find it? All right. Neil, next half hour.
Party time, game time, or just fun time. Doesn't matter what time it is, because it's Brewers Outlet time. The beverage supermarket has the area's largest beer selection. Imports, microbrews, ciders, and domestics. Pick from over 100 ice-cold 12-packs and dozens of 24-ounce singles. Soda, snacks, hot sauces, fresh roasted peanuts. Make it one-stop party shopping, and don't forget the pickle bar. So whatever you're celebrating or just doing it up, Brewers Outlet, Reagan Street, Sunbury wants to see you. And thank you for your years of patronage.
Hi, this is Season. For over 100 years, the Purdy Insurance Agency has been protecting families and businesses of the greater Susquehanna Valley and beyond. With the experience of our trained and knowledgeable staff, you can rest assured that your needs will be evaluated and met by some of the industry's best representatives. No matter what your insurance needs are, call Purdy Insurance today at 570-286-5855. Visit our website at purdyinsurance.com or check us out on Facebook to see what we can do for you.